As collectors, we constantly hear about what watches to buy to improve our collections, but never about the tools and accessories that can do that as well. Which is a shame, because without the proper kit, you'll never get the most out of your watches at best, and you'll be damaging them at worst. In this video, I'm going over the 5 essential tools and accessories every watch collector should own, with a few bonus items and tips mixed in. Let's start with the most important tool for any collector, the spring bar tool. If you could only own just one item from this list, it'd be the spring bar tool. They're essential for changing bracelets, straps, and adjusting clasps. Having one unlocks a ton of versatility for your collection by allowing you to swap straps whenever you want. A cheap one will do the job, but I recommend you spend a little more and get one with replaceable tips, such as the industry standard Bourgeon 6767 for around 25 bucks. It's sturdier, higher quality, and more precise. And when you bend or break the tips, which you will at some point, you'll have the option to replace them. The only downside of using a spring bar tool is the inevitability of scratching your watch with it. To avoid that, I recommend 2 extra companions to go along with it, toothpicks and a loop. Wooden toothpicks won't scratch steel, and are perfect for using on drilled lugs and adjusting older style bracelet clasps, especially on the go. My pro tip is to keep a segment of toothpick in your wallet for a pseudo micro adjustment on watches without on-the-fly capabilities. On hot days, I found mine invaluable. Toothpicks are also effective at cleaning gunk and buildup off of your watches, so having some around is always handy. Of course, loops are fun to use to look at the details of our watches up close, but the real reason I'm recommending them is that using them with your spring bar tool prevents stabbing at the lugs to move the spring bars. Seeing up close allows for fine adjustments and minimizes mistakes that cause scratches. A simple plastic loop would do the job just fine too, no need for an expensive metal one. At the very least, get one with a ventilation hole because they can fog up easily. I used mine with a wire headband, and all in, it was around $20 or $30. If you're spending anything over $500 to $1,000 on a watch, insurance is non-negotiable in my eyes. It's fairly inexpensive and completely saves you the price of your watch if it ever gets stolen or destroyed. If you're willing to spend thousands of dollars on watches, $100 a year on keeping them safe is nothing. I hear all the time that people are too worried to wear nicer watches, and it really makes you wonder why they aren't insuring them. Of course, use good judgment with where and how you wear an expensive watch, but the peace of mind you get from insurance is invaluable. There are a number of options to choose from, like Hodinkee and Jewelers Mutual, but often the best option is through your current home or renter's insurance if you're able. Do your own research and see what works best for you. Regardless, I don't think you'll ever regret the small amount you paid if you ever have to use it. I upload a new video every week on watch collecting, from providing tips like this one to discussing the deeper philosophies and statistics behind the hobby. If you enjoy that sort of content, consider subscribing if you haven't already. The next goal for the channel is to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and joining helps us get closer to that. Thanks. If you're a collector, you need a way to store your watches. It's not a groundbreaking suggestion, but a watch box is essential to have as a place for your watches to call home. They can be affordable or expensive. Just choose what works for you. My main advice would be to get one that isn't too big, because you're going to get an insatiable urge to fill it if you do. Boxes are obvious though. My real tip is to get a strap holder. As you collect, you're going to amass a large amount of straps, whether they're bracelets, NATOs, rubber, leather, what have you. For the longest time, I had mine in a pile and Ziploc bag, and I'm sure many of you do the same. Invest in a strap holder. They're 15 or 20 bucks and keep your straps organized and protected. For temporary storage, felt jewelry trays are incredibly underrated. I never hear anyone talking about them. I keep one on my nightstand, and it provides a dedicated and safe place to put my watch when I'm sleeping or taking a shower. It also doubles as a perfect surface for changing straps or adjusting bracelets. The lip catches small parts from rolling away, and the soft fabric prevents scratches. And finally, if you like to travel with your watches, a watch roll is a great addition too. They're essentially a portable box, and I found I quite enjoy using one. It protects your pieces, and overall, they just look cool. Just as the spring bar tool is necessary for bracelet removal, every collector needs something to adjust their bracelet as well. Bracelet links will usually come in 2 styles, screws and pin and collar. To remove screws, you're going to need a screwdriver. You may be tempted to go as cheap as possible here. Don't. Unlike other tools, a cheap screwdriver can actually damage the bracelet and screws, because the geometry, dimensions, and steel of the driver head are wrong. You want a driver that has a head that's both the length of the screw slot and the width. Cheaper ones will have extra play in the drive slot, resulting in stripping. Low quality steel mars and bends easier too, only contributing to this issue. Ideally, you'd splurge on some watchmaker screwdrivers from a brand like Horatec or Bourgeon, but these are really expensive for just this task. My recommendation is to spend about $6 on a nicer one in a single size, like the Waya 96018. This one specifically is 1.8mm, but you may need a slightly different size depending on the screws. Using it is a night and day difference though. It makes bracelet adjustment a breeze, especially in combination with a loop. This might be an unpopular opinion, but for pin and collar style links, cheap Chinese sets will do the job fine. Make sure to get a plastic bracelet holder at the very least, and you could probably get away with a cheap mallet and a Spring Bar Tools pin tip with the other end prong tip removed. It isn't pretty, but it gets the job done, and you'll probably only need to do it once. Luckily, pin and collars are most common on inexpensive watches, so it's not a big deal if you have troubles here. The final tool I think is truly essential for every collector is a pair of calipers. At some point, you're going to want to know if a watch will fit you without having access to it in person. The calipers help with this in two ways. First, you can measure the width of your wrist and lay out the dimensions of the watch on it. This alone can help you figure out if the lug-to-lug or thickness will be too much or too little for you. Second, you can measure the dimensions of the watches you do own. Often, the officially listed dimensions aren't accurate, and the only way to figure out what they really are is to measure yourself. This gives you a better estimate of what your true ideal size is. They're useful for a lot more too, like measuring strap width for aftermarket class compatibility, lug width on vintage watches, and your wrist circumference with a piece of string. Get a decent pair of plastic calipers with an accuracy of at least 1/10 of a millimeter. Metal is going to scratch up your watch, and plastic ones are accurate enough for measuring case dimensions. If you're in the US, Harbor Freight sells a great pair for around $10, and I'm sure you can get a similar pair anywhere else in the world. So those are what I consider to be the absolute bare essentials for every collector's tool arsenal. But there's still a lot more accessories that are really useful to have. Here's a lightning round of some of those that are great to own. Watchmakers' tweezers are really useful when picking up and maneuvering small screws and spring bars. Get pointy tip ones, and generally, spending more is often better. Brass is great for not scratching steel, but you can get away with cheap steel ones if you're only using them for bracelets and strap changing. If you collect vintage watches, Polywatch is an absolute must. It's the standard for removing scratches from acrylic crystals. It's like $10 for 2 tubes. Just get some if you own any watches with acrylic or Heslight crystals. You won't regret it. Microfiber towels are pretty self-explanatory. You can wipe down the crystal, case, and bracelet to keep your watch looking clean. They're especially important for watch photography, to remove fingerprints from reflective surfaces. A UV flashlight is an amusing toy to charge up the lume on your watches. There's really not a ton of utility here, but they're cheap enough and fun to use to make your watch glow. If you own any watches that aren't magnetically resistant, it can be useful to own a demagnetizer. Sometimes your watch may seem like it needs a service, but actually it's just magnetized. Inexpensive Chinese ones do the job well enough. In the long run, this could save you money by making servicing less frequent. If your collection is rather expensive or you live in a high crime region, a step up in protection beyond insurance is getting a safe. I'm no expert in this area, but the common wisdom is that you're going to want one that's quite inconvenient to move or get into. Typically something really heavy that can be bolted to the floor. A safety deposit box at your local bank is another option, especially if you have a really large collection. Time graphers are really useful to track the regulation of your watch over time to know when it likely needs servicing. They're pretty expensive for a casual collector though, so instead, get a time graphing app on your phone. You can get free ones that use your phone's microphone, and they're maybe 85% as good, which serves the purposes you need. As much as I enjoy having my collection of watch tools, I thought it would be interesting to feature a watch that requires as few tools as possible for today's obscure reference. Mainly because I believe that's the way the industry is headed, towards a more modular and toolless experience. Formex is a Swiss microbrand at the forefront of this movement. They specialize in comfort and convenience technologies like on-the-fly micro-adjustment bracelets and toolless quick-release mechanisms on nearly every model they make. Their Reef series in particular is interesting because they have tool-free, hand-swappable bezels. This is definitely not a technology you see often in the industry, and to me, it's extremely neat. It increases the versatility of the watch a ton. These also have amazing specs for the price, with 300 meters of water resistance, low thickness, cost certification, ceramic bezels, and a color-matched date wheel. All for around $2,000, and even less on the secondary market. There's tons of different versions in various sizes, colors, and complications as well. The design is reminiscent of the Nautilus, but unique enough that I think it gets a pass. If there ever was a one-and-done watch that maximizes comfort and versatility without needing anything else, this could be it. Truly a watch and brand for enthusiasts, and I hope their success influences others in the industry to follow suit, because frankly, someone needs to step up with some innovation in the seemingly stagnant field of watchmaking and design. I've been outspoken in the past about my distaste for the buying culture of watches, but sometimes buying can save you money in the long term if you do it right. One part of reducing your spending habits is maintaining and enjoying what you already have, and there's no better way to do that than protecting your collection and your experience with it. And honestly, it can be fun to collect tools too. At least they aren't as expensive as watches and you'll actually use them. And hopefully I was able to introduce you to a few that you hadn't heard of or considered before today. Let me know in the comments, are there any accessories or extra items that you use often in conjunction with your watches? I'm always curious to hear about ways of improving the collecting experience. And if you're interested in more collection discussions, watch my video here where I discuss if watch collecting is even a hobby at all. To answer the question, I go into the buying culture in a bit more detail and question why we even collect in the first place. Thank you for taking the time to watch.